It was the afternoon of July 9th, 1940, off Calabria's coast. The sea lay calm under clear skies, a gentle northwest breeze brushing across the deck. Vice Admiral Andrew Cunningham steadied himself aboard Warspite, his flagship, as his fleet advanced in 3 formations, 10 miles apart. Suddenly, at 14:47, smoke rose on the horizon, the Italian fleet. Reports flooded in. Every second counted, as Cunningham barked his orders and sailors prepared to face the large Italian fleet. The first battleship engagement of the Mediterranean Sea was about to break out. Vice Admiral Cunningham, aboard HMS Warspite, braced for a fierce confrontation with the Italian fleet. In World of Warships Legends, you can relive this excitement and take command of historically accurate ships in realistic naval battles. New players can take advantage of the welcome pack, featuring the American Tier 3 premium battleship Arkansas, the German Tier 3 cruiser Karlsruhe, and much more to help you get started. World of Warships Legends November update sees the launch of a stunning selection of authentic First World War ships at special prices, including both ships featuring in this video, the iconic Warspite and Giulio Cesare. You can sail through dynamic environments where you'll discover over 400 ships, 20 maps, and 100 commanders, with new content added every 5 weeks. Whether you're a seasoned captain or a newcomer, the easy-to-learn controls will have you commanding your fleet in no time. Click the link in the description and dive into World of Warships action. I play quite a bit of World of Warships Legends myself, along with 8 million others. See you on the oceans. When Italy entered the war in June 1940, its military presence in Libya was unprepared for offensive actions. To address this, large Italian supply convoys began to transport troops, vehicles, fuel, and supplies from Naples to Benghazi. Meanwhile, the British sent convoys from Alexandria to resupply Malta, their Mediterranean fortress. These convoys culminated in several battles in a struggle for control of the Mediterranean Sea. Though, as it was early in the war, the only significant engagement had been the battle around the Espero convoy, where Captain Baroni's destroyer was sunk by a larger British force ambushing him. Learning from this encounter, the Italians increased the protection of their convoy runs to Benghazi. On July 4th, Italian naval intelligence had intercepted British plans for a Malta-bound operation. In response, the Regia Marina's 2 battle fleets prepared to intercept the British. Meanwhile, the supplying of Benghazi continued. On the evening of July 6th, an Italian convoy set out from Naples, its holds and decks packed with men and munitions. This assembly, departing from Naples, consisted of a passenger liner and 5 freighters carrying 2,200 troops, 72 tanks, 237 vehicles, and over 16,000 tons of essential fuel and supplies. Escorting this valuable cargo was the 2nd Cruiser Division, composed of the cruisers Bande Nere and Colleoni, alongside the 10th Destroyer Squadron and 6 torpedo boats led by Vice Admiral Ferdinando Casardi. The following day, new intelligence reached the Italian Supermarina, indicating that British cruisers, later identified as 2 destroyers, had arrived in Malta. Noticing an increase in British presence, Supermarine decided to organize a larger protective force around their convoy. Vice Admiral Riccardo Palladini set sail with the 2nd Fleet, amassing 6 heavy cruisers, 4 light cruisers, and 16 destroyers. Vice Admiral Inigo Campione's 1st Fleet, comprising 2 battleships, 6 light cruisers, and 20 destroyers, departed Taranto to provide additional support. In summary, the Italian fleet comprised 2 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 8 light cruisers, and 23 destroyers. One of the famous battleships among his fleet was the Giulio Cesare, named after Julius Caesar. As part of the Conte di Cavour class, she was laid down on June 24, 1910, and launched on October 15, 1911. She was completed in May 1914 and commissioned shortly after. With a displacement of 23,088 long tons and a length of 577 feet, she was designed with a powerful armament that included 3 triple 12-inch guns and 18 4.7-inch secondary guns. The battleship underwent significant reconstruction from 1933 to 1937 at Cantieri del Tirreno, increasing her length to 611 feet and her displacement to 29,100 long tons. The reconstruction enhanced her speed to approximately 27 knots thanks to new geared steam turbines. Her armament was updated to include two 12.6-inch guns and several anti-aircraft batteries. As the Italians went on their way, the British, under Vice Admiral Andrew Cunningham, organized a parallel convoy operation from Alexandria to Malta, aiming to supply Malta and evacuate civilians. Cunningham's fleet was divided into three main groups. Force A was commanded by Vice Admiral John Tovey. This force consisted of the 7th Cruiser Squadron, which included 5 light cruisers. Force B was under the command of Cunningham himself, as Commander-in-Chief of the Mediterranean Fleet. This group included his flagship, the battleship Warspite, along with 6 destroyers. Force C was commanded by Vice Admiral Sir Henry Pridham Whipple. This force included the 1st Battle Squadron, comprising 2 battleships, Malaya and Royal Sovereign, as well as 1 aircraft carrier, Eagle, and 10 destroyers. In total, the Allied fleet brought 3 battleships, 1 aircraft carrier, 5 light cruisers, and 16 destroyers to the battle. Warspite was, without a doubt, the most famous ship of this formation. HMS Warspite, the 6th ship to bear the name, was a Queen Elizabeth-class battleship commissioned in April 1915, with a displacement of 32,590 long tons and a length of 643 feet. She boasted impressive speed and firepower for her era, capable of reaching 24 knots and equipped with a strong armament. Warspite's propulsion system was powered by steam turbines, which allowed her to reach speeds of up to 24 knots. This speed, combined with her solid armor plating, up to 13 inches thick in some areas, made her a challenging target for enemy fire. Her main armament comprised 4 twin 15-inch guns, positioned in turrets A, B, X, and Y, complemented by 14 single 6-inch guns for secondary firepower. Over her career, Warspite underwent significant modernization, especially in the late 1930s. By the time the Second World War began, she had been fitted with a variety of anti-aircraft guns. Warspite's distinguished service included participation in the Battle of Jutland, surviving throughout the interbellum. Remarkably, she earned 15 battle honors, the most of any Royal Navy ship, earning the affectionate nickname, the Grand Old Lady. At Gibraltar, Admiral James Somerville prepared for a diversionary sortie with his battlecruiser, 2 battleships, an aircraft carrier, 3 light cruisers, and 11 destroyers, named Force H. Cunningham suggested a direct bombardment on Italian strongholds, such as Naples, Trapani, Palermo, or Messina, with Somerville instead opting for an airstrike on Cagliari, Sardinia. On July 8th, Italian reconnaissance flights over Alexandria confirmed the departure of the British Mediterranean Fleet. At 10 o'clock, Italian aircraft from bases in the Dodecanese and Libya began a high-altitude bombing campaign against the Mediterranean Fleet. These attacks managed to land a direct hit on HMS Gloucester, killing the captain and 17 men, and compromising its command systems. They also inflicted minor damage on Warspite and Malaya. Throughout the day, Italian bombers targeted the British convoy without notable success. With growing intelligence on Italian fleet movements, Cunningham deduced that the Italians were likely covering a significant convoy, one bound, perhaps, for Benghazi. This prompted him to position his fleet between the Italian forces and Taranto. Notably, his cruisers carried only about 50% of their ammunition load. On the evening of July 8th, the Italian convoy successfully reached Benghazi as Supermarina intercepted British communications, indicating that Cunningham intended to be off Calabria by noon the following day. Meanwhile, Admiral Campioni had discerned the enemy's intent, correctly identifying Somerville's sortie as a diversionary threat. He ordered Palladini's fleet to veer northwest, followed by his own First Fleet. Both Italian formations now aimed to intercept Cunningham, guided by reports from a shadowing floatplane. Campioni, having completed his mission, reported plans to engage British forces from Alexandria. However, Supermarina opted against this due to intercepted messages revealing the British fleet's intentions to confront the Italians near the Calabrian coast. Recognizing the strength disparity, with 3 British battleships significantly more powerful than their own, Supermarina decided to avoid a direct clash. However, Campioni objected. He argued that a confrontation could result in an advantageous outcome, as he believed the British might be unaware of his exact positioning. Deciding to take the gamble, Supermarina agreed. Consequently, they ordered Campioni to prepare for combat near Calabria. The following morning, British Sunderlands from Malta monitored the Italian movements, shadowing them for 4 hours. The Italians hadn't realized it, but they had been discovered. The Sunderlands informed Cunningham of the Italian movements, and he quickly moved to intercept the Italian fleet. Meanwhile, Italian aircraft, oblivious to Cunningham's shift to the north, meandered fruitlessly over the seas south of the British route. Around noon, Cunningham ordered the carrier Eagle to launch an airstrike. As 9 Swordfish biplanes located Palladini's heavy cruisers, positioned 45 miles southeast of Cape Spartivento, they launched a fruitless attack, missing all their torpedoes and sustaining damage to 3 aircraft. The presence of carrier aircraft signaled to Campioni that British warships were in proximity. He ordered his cruisers to deploy 6 additional floatplanes, one of which ultimately located the enemy fleet, now only 80 miles northeast. Despite the Regia Aeronautica failing to deliver its anticipated strikes, Campioni resolved to reverse course and engage in battle. Cunningham, for his part, moved northwest until 1415, at which point he felt secure in his position between Campioni and Taranto. He then ordered his fleet to turn westward to close the distance. On the afternoon of July 9th, clear skies stretched overhead. Visibility was clear. A fresh north by west breeze swept across the waters, and only a slight swell disturbed the sea's surface. Cunningham's ships advanced in 3 distinct groups, each spaced 10 miles apart. Leading the fleet were Vice Admiral Tovey's light cruisers of the 7th Squadron, followed closely by Cunningham's flagship, Warspite, protected by the 14th Destroyer Flotilla. Bringing up the rear was Rear Admiral Pridham Whipple aboard Royal Sovereign, which was 3 knots slower than Warspite, accompanied by Malaya, Eagle, and 10 destroyers. Admiral Campioni navigated his fleet northeast at a brisk 15 knots, arranging his ships into 4 columns spaced 5 miles apart. From west to east, these columns comprised the 7th Division, the 3rd and 1st Divisions, the 5th Division, and the 8th and 4th Divisions, all under the watchful eyes of 16 destroyers assigned to screen the various units. The British cruiser group spotted the Italian fleet first. At 1447, British cruisers Orion and Sydney detected smoke on the western horizon. In response, Vice Admiral Tovey detached the damaged Gloucester to join the carrier Eagle, which had also fallen out of formation, accompanied by the old destroyers Voyager and Vampire. 5 minutes later, Neptune reported 2 ships southwest, 28,000 yards distant. These were Rear Admiral Legnani's 8th Division. Around 15 o'clock, the cruisers positioned on the right flank of the Italian formation spotted their British counterparts at a distance of over 25,000 yards. Without hesitation, they opened fire, their shells arcing through the air. The British, however, chose to hold their fire, waiting until the gap closed to less than 20,000 yards before responding. 4 minutes later, Campioni maneuvered his battleships and heavy cruisers to the east-northeast, intending to bolster the light cruisers in combat. Meanwhile, Sansonetti's 7th Division approached the fray from the southeast. Reports from the British side noted that while the Italian salvos were accurately aimed, a shell fired from Garibaldi struck Neptune's catapult and seaplane, showering them with metal shards. No other damage was reported. The British salvos, tightly clustered, continued to fall short. As Warspite advanced at 17 knots, she sent shells hurtling toward Legnani's ships. At 15:26, the 4th Division entered the range of British fire, only to be greeted by towering geysers of seawater erupting around them. Under threat, the division veered off, shrouding itself in clouds of smoke as they attempted to evade. Warspite fired 10 salvos at the retreating cruisers within 4.5 minutes, alternating guns to keep up a steady barrage. At 15:33, Italian Admiral Legnani spotted Admiral Campione's battleships and executed a strategic westward maneuver to avoid British fire. 3 minutes later, firing diminished as the Italians advanced, prompting Cunningham to dispatch another wave of torpedo planes from the aircraft carrier Eagle. However, the attack yielded no results as all torpedoes missed. At 1540, Campione's battleships, led by Matteucci's 6 heavy cruisers, turned northeast at 25 knots, while the British battleship Warspite tracked their movements. The Cesare fired 12.6-inch shells at Warspite from nearly 29,000 yards, while Cavour targeted Malaya. Warspite retaliated with its heavy shells. Italian gunners adjusted their shots based on impacts, with near misses reported by British destroyers. Italian gunners worked meticulously, adjusting each shot by observing shell impacts. Several overs struck near the British destroyers, with fragments hitting Hereward and Decoy, while Nubian reported near misses, narrowly escaping damage from 2 shells falling within a mere 10 yards. At 1555, Palladini directed the Trento to unleash salvos at Warspite from its maximum range, followed by an order for other Italian cruisers to target the British light cruisers at roughly 22,000 yards. Tovi's flagship, Orion, now steering northwest, returned fire, while Warspite's gunners launched coordinated barrages. Warspite's Captain D.B. Fisher observed that enemy salvos had begun to bracket Warspite itself. At 16 o'clock, a broadside straddled the British flagship. Concerned that the Cesare had achieved effective range, Warspite altered her course, accelerating to 17 knots. Her guns fell silent momentarily as she pivoted, repositioning to re-enter the fight. As the Italian fleet maneuvered, lookouts aboard Freccia and Cesare and the circling float plane above Babbiano noted a critical change in course on the British side, even catching sight of what looked like flames. Their observations suggested a hit on the British battleship Warspite. British reports later clarified that the Warspite's own salvos had set fire to its reconnaissance plane. There had been no direct hit. But then a 15-inch shell from Warspite's final salvo arced across the sea, covering the 33-second flight distance before smashing into Cesare's aft funnel. This shell detonated on the funnel's inner plating, tearing open a 20-foot gap. The nose of the round broke through into a magazine and even penetrated the petty officer's mess, though it was finally halted by an armored bulkhead. Fires broke out immediately, filling the ship's boiler rooms with thick smoke as the ventilators spread the fumes. The smoke extinguished a group of boilers, reducing the flagship's speed from 26 knots to a mere 19. Admiral Campione, recognizing the damage to his fleet and the strength of the advancing British forces, ordered a retreat, avoiding engagement with 3 superior British battleships while only 1 Italian battleship remained fully operational. Following Cesare's lead, Cavour also pivoted to retreat, continuing to fire their aft turrets while targets were visible through smoke. In 15 minutes, Cesare fired 74 rounds and Cavour added 41. Warspite's guns fell silent at 16:03, concluding an 11-minute engagement with 17 salvos fired. Malaya's ranging shots fell short as a final blast at 16:08 damaged a plane on her catapult. Campione ordered a strategic Italian retreat, using destroyers to shield their ships. Italian heavy cruisers fired at British vessels until out of range, during which a British shell from Neptune hit Bolzano, causing flooding but not disabling her. Later, British Swordfish aircraft attacked unsuccessfully, while Italian destroyers launched torpedoes. The 9th Squadron advanced towards the British, releasing 5 torpedoes and withdrawing under smoke, with Alfieri narrowly avoiding a British hit. Meanwhile, the 7th Squadron's Freccia and Saetta launched more torpedoes, with Saetta claiming a near hit on Sydney. British forces counterattacked, led by Cunningham, with the 10th Flotilla firing on the Italians before repositioning. Italy's 11th Squadron launched torpedoes amidst heavy cruisers, withdrawing safely. The 12th Squadron fired more torpedoes while obscured by smoke, and under British fire, continued relaying enemy movements to Admiral Campione. At 16:45, as Italian bombers arrived, the 12th Squadron made a final assault, launching 3 torpedoes before withdrawing. Tovi's ships maintained a steady northward course with limited ammunition expenditure. By 17 o'clock, the British destroyers found an empty sea as both fleets withdrew, resulting in an inconclusive battle. The British suffered 1 damaged light cruiser and 2 damaged destroyers. The Italians suffered damage to Giulio Cesare. The battleship remained out of action for a month. The destroyer Leone Pancaldo was later torpedoed by British aircraft, and another heavy cruiser was damaged. In the hours following the battle, Italian bombers relentlessly attacked the British fleet, often hitting their own ships. While no British vessels suffered direct hits, some incurred minor splinter damage, particularly Eagle, which sustained damage to her aviation fuel pipes and machinery from near misses. The action off Calabria became the first large fleet clash of the war. Despite Italy claiming a strategic victory as their cargo ships reached Libya, the situation wasn't so clear-cut. In contrast, British Commander Cunningham expressed disappointment in his outdated ships and requested faster battleships and an armoured deck carrier. Both sides would soon meet again, as the battle for the Mediterranean continued. Don't miss out on the November update in World of Warships Legends. Get your hands on iconic World War I ships and earn exclusive rewards like the Von der Tann. Join today and start your naval adventure. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a like, it really helps out the channel. If there is a topic, battle, or person you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and you want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 per month, you will already gain early access to all my videos without any in-video advertisements. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.